I'm Scott Holleran, and I'm here for Alcon Lighting, interviewing sales director Bob Contos, part of our Tales from Sales series. I'm excited to be here. Bob has an amazing background and a very distinguished sales record in the lighting industry. So we'll be talking about some of that, but definitely want to learn about the process and just dig right in. So I'll just open it up, Bob, by asking, and it's okay if I call you Bob?
Absolutely.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. Uh, what's your general background in sales, apart from the lighting industry? How did you become specifically focused uh, with your skill set on sales?
Having started in the industry at a relatively young age, my first roles and responsibilities didn't involve sales. They did involve more at the back end of our business. However, within a year or so, as a natural function of the desire and the need to satisfy customers, deal with customers one on one in a showroom environment, I quickly integrated some of my work into an actual sales effort. And this was specifically done with customers who were purchasing products for projects. In most cases, these were larger new residential projects,
Mhm.
new home construction, that kind of thing. And from there, I quickly involved myself in working on multifamily and larger projects that
Right.
included condominium work,
Got it.
high-rise work, and so forth. So that's how I got started.
I see. But when you say you integrated it from your other type of work, what really bridged that gap for you? Did someone else higher up say, "We got to get you doing sales here," or
It
just
was
sort of,
a great question. It was, in fact, some of that. The owners of the business recognized that I had an interest, a pretty quick learn, good knowledge base for assisting customers, primarily initially in the more technical aspects of the products we were selling.
I see.
That slowly evolved into working with them directly from a sales standpoint, because the line between technical assistance and sales very thin.
That's right. That's right. So, would you say that the soft sell approach was a natural fit for you?
Yeah, most definitely. And I think the initial work that I did, which was an attempt to explain the technical aspects of the product, how the product was installed, allowed me to approach the customer and deal with the customer on a very in a very practical way.
Got it.
Okay.
So there's an emphasis on the practice, not just the theory. So I'm going to put you
Absolutely.
on the spot here a bit.
Sure.
I'm going to challenge you with this question.
Mhm.
In one sentence, what is your sales philosophy?
Let me see if I can contain this. I think my sales philosophy is based on listening and understanding what the appropriate solution or solutions are for the customer's lighting needs. Okay, now that's a very general statement. And obviously the details are where it gets important. But listening and understanding what the customer is expecting, what they're needing, and what the application is.
Mhm.
In that way, we can come up with the appropriate solution and eventually the sale.
Okay. What's your favorite type of lighting?
Like, I would say my answer is probably types of light. Lighting has
One
evolved.
type, you only get to choose one type.
I would say it's probably embedded indirect lighting where one does not see or their eye is not attracted to a particular or specific light source.
Ah, okay. So you like the organic school of lighting architecture and design.
Certainly, yes.
And why is that? It sounds like you've given it the matter some thought.
Well, I think our business and the sale of lighting has evolved to a point where we are now, and at Alcon doing it quite well, aligning the customer's desire to control and be able to alter their environment in such a fashion as they do with everything else in life today. And so, as it involves their desire for lighting, how to be able to do that in a very subtle, discreet, and non-visible way. I think that is a natural trend of lighting, and that is one that I enjoy.
What makes working at Alcon Lighting different?
Uh, it is very different. Alcon is a very unique company in our industry, in that we, unlike most manufacturers, we market very heavily and very seriously to the specification market. And that is a market I've enjoyed working with for many, many years. I like to understand what the origins of a project are and what the needs are based on what the architect, the lighting designer, or the design firm is really attempting to accomplish. And so by working at Alcon with the variety of products that we offer and the emphasis on the architectural lighting, commercial lighting that we offer, that allows us the opportunity to really see a project not from a distance, but up close and understand how the product's going to be used, what the product is for, what the end result of the lighting job is going to be.
So it sounds like, to borrow a phrase from Francis Bacon, one of the credos at Alcon Lighting is that knowledge is power, and that the more the sales associate or a sales consultant, I believe is the correct terminology at Alcon Lighting, the more they know, the better prepared they are to align the customer's needs with solving the problem. Is that about right?
That's exactly the case. Okay. And it's not so much you're correct in saying that knowledge is power here, but it's not the power that gives
Right.
us the ability to sell. It's the knowledge of how to solve the lighting problem. When I say lighting problem, not that every lighting job is a problem.
Right.
At the end of the day, solving and providing a solution to the lighting is where the power is.
Sure. You're trying to get to shed some light on the topic. So
Power pun, yeah.
yeah, right. That makes sense, and I follow the logic. So, would you say, to bring it back to the original question, that part of what differentiates Alcon Lighting in the market is that the sales philosophy grants the lighting sales consultant the autonomy and the time to be a bit of a detective and listen and try to learn and know and understand more about the customer's needs, so that isn't this endless back and forth that's so irritating.
Correct. Yeah, it has to be understood in the context of the world we live in today. We
Right.
live in a very rapid paced world. People are
Yeah.
used to seeing things, buying them instantaneously.
Right. Without much
People
thought.
without much thought. Lighting has become a very complex product and a very sophisticated and technically oriented product.
Right.
And you can find products similar to what we offer online, various locations, and so forth. But if you don't have the knowledge to understand what that product's going to do, how it's going to fit or not in the environment you're trying to put it in, then you are spending a lot of extra time. In many cases, if not most, you're spending a lot of extra money trying to arrive at the proper solution. And so what Alcon is particularly good at is melding the ability to have product that people desire, they want, they see, they like, the products that they're seeing in all kinds of environments, and they say, "Boy, that's something I'd love to have." But how
Right.
do they actually get it? How do they get the right product? How do they understand all the variables and the variations that are available to that product?
And how do you achieve that in training, in general? How do you penetrate that mentality among your lighting sales consultants and get them to slow down,
Now,
take their time, and make sure they get the sale if they get it, and the order exactly right, so that there are fewer returns and problems with the sale and the customer and the order?
this is a function of our salesmanship, quite honestly, and that is part of my job is to imbue our sales agents, our sales consultants, with an understanding that this is more than just facilitating a customer's choice
Mhm.
and aligning it with our product numbers and writing up a sale. This
Right.
involves some communication and some discussion in many cases about what the product is, what they're trying to attain, and how our products align with their interests and their desires, and explaining all the variables that are involved in selecting the product that they've just looked at a web page and say, that's what I want. Okay. Where's it being installed? How's it being installed? Is it new construction, remodel construction? How much light do they need? What are the ceiling heights? What are the dimensions of the space? What are the colors of the space, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is part of a communication that needs to take place. And that effort is what distinguishes us from a typical e-commerce site or a typical manufacturer that doesn't offer those opportunities for discussion.
What is the most consistent customer compliment you get? I mean, overall, when you look at all of the lighting sales consultants and the overall team of lighting sales consultants, what is the most consistent compliment? Not necessarily the most, it might or may not be also the most common, but what's the most steady compliment that you notice across the spectrum?
I'd say consistently we are commended for responding quickly, responding well, and taking a genuine interest in the customer's needs and wants and desires. Okay.
So, okay, that's a great compliment. That's the most consistent compliment, really.
That's the most consistent tone. You know, we also get noted for our knowledge, our experience, and our abilities to offer up solutions that the customer may never had considered initially.
Okay,
Okay.
interesting. So it sounds like the most common customer feedback is that Alcon Lighting gets it right, gets it fast, and cares.
Cares. Absolute.
Great. And again, putting you on the spot a bit with this next question, what do you think is the primary value Alcon Lighting's customer gets from each sale? And when I say primary value, I mean, when the phone call terminates or the back and forth exchange is over and the customer has placed the order, has the lights, what is the top or primary or fundamental value that the customer gets?
I think that there are multiple values we want to instill in our customers, but certainly the primary one would be that after the order's been placed, the product's been delivered, the product has been installed, the customer experience when when the project is done is that they got exactly the correct solution for their initial inquiry. This includes any aftermarket assistance that may be necessary because of a problem they may have in the installation, or even downstream, if there's a warranty issue, the knowledge that they can come back to Alcon, refer to their original order, and know that there's a department in place at Alcon to assist them with that aftermarket work. Okay.
It's excellent. That's a really good answer. So it's that Alcon Lighting gets the order exactly right, or certainly strives for that standard, not just fast and thrown on the front porch
Right.
kind of metaphor.
Right.
Okay.
And that integrity really guides our our actions and our communication to the customer. Not every bit of news we translate to a customer is always the best news.
Right.
Things get delayed.
Things go wrong.
Things go wrong. After all, we're part of the construction industry. We all understand that world is not perfect. But the ability to communicate that in an urgent way, in an upfront and open and honest way, is really key to creating that right relationship and keeping that relationship overall.
Right. What are your thoughts on the evolution of so-called smart lighting?
Well, it's clearly a revolution. Okay. And over the last 5 years, in line with the whole movement and trend towards smart building, smart residences, smart homes, and so forth, people are looking to incorporate smart lighting into all the other smart technologies that they're currently using or seeing or becoming aware of. So it's a real critical part of our work and our products now. It is a very complicated and complex and sophisticated form. We are, considered pretty adept at it. We try our best. We're constantly learning, and the technology is changing rapidly and moving and improving rapidly. And we are doing our best to keep pace with it and be aware of it and offer our customers the appropriate solutions when it comes to smart lighting.
How does it add value for the building owner and the occupant or the
Well, yeah, I think that's two sides of a similar coin here. The building owner wants to be able to incorporate the newest technology at an appropriate budget to their facilities, to their properties. So whether they're either resale situations or attracting tenants and so forth, they are offering state of the art technologies in their buildings. The owner or the user is a little bit broader set of interests here because, again, I'm going to refer back to one of the statements I made earlier in our conversation. There is a driving need for users to want to control their environment. Okay, and smart technology takes them well downstream in their ability to do that, particularly with the products that are available today, where that technology can affect the volume of lighting, the color of the lighting,
Right.
the intensity of the lighting, whether it's focus light, ambient light, or sparkle light. It can do all those things. So it's a real key element to many of the products that people are interested in and that we are therefore selling.
What would you say is the most exciting prospect about the future of lighting?
Um, I'd say probably the most exciting um, aspect of the future of our business and the future of lighting in general would be the continued growth of how technology, the combination of technology and the organic design and structure of the product itself is going to continue to merge. And that we are best positioned to understand not only new trends in design and architecture and so forth, but that what makes it exciting is our ability to marry our efforts in product development, technology understanding, and salesmanship to keep pace with those rapid changes that are taking place in product development as well as technology. That's the most exciting. And the fact that the public, over the span of my career in lighting, has become so much smarter, so much more technically advanced, so much more involved in the purchase of the lighting and how it will impact their lives from a practical as well as emotional standpoint than ever was the case when I first started our business. When I started our business, lighting was an appliance. You bought a bulb, you bought a fixture, you turned it on, you turned it off like your washing machine, your dishwasher. Lighting is so much more than that today.
How has the conversation with architects and lighting designers changed as smart lighting has become more common?
Ah, I'm going to answer that question the following way. And not only has it become more common, but it has become more challenging and more technical and more sophisticated. And I have seen a distinctive trend over the last 5, 8 years, so that architects recognizing this has become a science and an art and a technology that it goes beyond their ability to keep up with and be familiar with to the point where they can actually specify products in a lot of cases. What they have done, both the architectural industry and the design industry, have now had to become more focused in utilizing people like lighting designers and manufacturers such as Alcon
Mhm.
to be the experts, okay, to be able to solve lighting challenges, lighting problems with technology that increases and changes at such a pace that they cannot keep up with us. We get requests from architects virtually daily asking for recommendations, not only for specific product, but technology and lighting layouts and lighting design because they simply don't have the technical acumen to deal with it and keep pace with all the work they're doing. That's what has changed dramatically over the last 5 to 8 years.
What are you most excited about coming to work every day? I mean, what a sales director does, because I know you've been with Alcon Lighting for a while now, but still relatively new.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
remains a bit mysterious. Don't want you to give away any trade secrets or proprietary information.
No
But
problem.
do you find that you spend most of your time putting out fires or dealing with a lighting sales consultant over challenges or problems or going over a call or a sale or reviewing the process and streamlining the process? What do you get most excited about doing and when you come to work every day at Alcon Lighting? And is it mostly this kind of, guidance work or just watching and monitoring and tracking the different factors that go into the lighting sale and the art of selling?
Okay, you covered a number of bases there, but certainly firefighting, as any sales director, sales manager would do. That's part of the job. I find that intriguing, interesting, and not unexpected. Having dealt with the buying public or commercial customers literally all my life, I'm very used to that. And I think one of the benefits of having such a broad background is my ability to understand those kinds of problems and what potential solutions might be. And I think the fact that we have become known for such great product,
Mhm.
for great service, and the ability to be innovative and uh, forward thinking in our approach to not only the product but our business enables us to a lot of the opportunities that most manufacturers don't get. I'll give you an example. Late last week on Friday, I received a communication from a building owner in Dallas, Texas, who had a large, extremely large multi-story tower in Dallas, where they expressed their unhappiness with the current lighting products and their systems and wanted to know if we would be interested in working with them towards resolving a lot of those problems, which ultimately would mean changing out a lot of product and so on and so on. But it's still
Mhm.
kinds of things that a lot of manufacturers don't necessarily, those kinds of requests don't necessarily get directly. And I think, again, because of the model of Alcon Lighting's business, it allows us to be much closer to our potential customers than a lot of manufacturers who use a more traditional sales rep agency type of organization where there are several steps removed from the actual customer.
You started in the lighting industry literally as someone who was mopping floors. I want you to talk about that.
Yeah, I started quite young. I was still in school and took on the job of working in a
So,
lighting
what are we talking? Elementary school, middle school,
No, I was actually in just starting high school. I was about 14 years old. Yeah.
14 years old. So you're
Yeah.
violating child labor laws. Okay.
In those days, it was much easier. So I'd work a few hours afternoons and on weekends. Started off mopping floors, cleaning the warehouse, sweeping, and just like any other kid back.
How did you get the job in the lighting showroom?
A friend of mine actually worked there, and she recommended me, and that's how I got it. And they looked at me and they said, "Oh, you look so young, but we'll give it a try." So anyway, I quickly got involved in the product itself, and we used to build, assemble lighting products for our displays in the showroom, also for customers for their orders for their jobs, and from there, I evolved into actually doing installation work on lighting products in those days. So I spent a number of years in people's homes and businesses actually installing lighting and repairing lighting and working on lighting and fixing and so forth. And in that process is how I evolved into seller. Okay, I took a particular interest in commercial lighting because I like the scale and the size of these projects, and I got to work with contractors and in some cases design folks and architects. And I developed a love for doing that larger scale work and ended up selling and doing estimating for a number of years in that arena as well. So that's how I started.
Sounds like a natural progression.
It was, yeah, yeah.
Quick sideline, and again, we're coming into the home stretch now. And so you ended up attending the University of California at
Right.
Berkeley, studying European history and
Yeah.
and music.
Right.
So what happened? Between mopping the floors and taking an interest in the commercial side of lighting.
That's a great question. Like many people, our careers kind of develop. Um, I never stopped working in lighting. All through school, high school, college, graduate school, I worked in lighting, at least on a part-time basis. I had some significant interest in history, particularly European history, Russian history, having to do probably with previous generations of my own family. Just something I kind of grew up with. And
So are you of Russian ancestry?
on one side of my family, yes. And my parents were both second generation Americans. So I was very close with my grandparents who all came from the old country. So I had a great love for that, had a natural inclination for it. I love to read, I love to write. I just had a bit of a knack for it. And it's in parallel with that, I had already developed a strong interest in music and performance. And that was a kind of a hobby that turned into a bit of work and a career, a quasi career that paralleled my upper education. And
You a
so
musician?
I was, yes,
Which instrument?
trumpet and flugelhorn.
Trumpet, and what was the type of horn?
Flugelhorn.
Can you explain what it is for those who aren't familiar?
Yeah, flugelhorn is a variation of a trumpet. It's got a little bit deeper tone. It's used historically. It was used back in 16th, 17th century for certain kinds of classical music. In the 20th and 21st century, it's used primarily for jazz.
Ah, is that your favorite type of music?
It would be, yes. Yeah,
Which
but
classical jazz or fusion?
no, traditional jazz, probably post World War II. But I like all forms of jazz and got an opportunity to play with some very serious people and had an opportunity to go on tour a little bit here and there and did a fair amount of recording. But my music education enabled me to be able to play really all kinds of music. I've done everything from circuses to ballet to musicals to more traditional classical work. And but from a personal taste standpoint, I worked quite a bit in jazz.
And you probably learned a thing or two about lighting for the circus. There's an article about that as well that Alcon led.
Yes, yeah. Well, it enabled me to see a lot of different settings and a lot of different applications for lighting. It's through all of that.
Theatrical lighting,
Yeah, yeah,
for ballet. And then
absolutely.
you mentioned graduate school. Where
Yeah.
and why did you attend graduate school?
I went to graduate school at UCSC, which is another campus for the UC system in California, in
That's the university. Yep, Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz, and did graduate work there. Got a master's there.
In what
Uh,
topic?
Russian history, contemporary Russian history, primarily revolutionary history, which was of great interest to me at the time, and still is. So,
Do you have scholarship in the history of communism and the Bolshevik Revolution?
yes, I do. Um, and so, my intention after all that education, various degrees, and so was to teach in college, which I actually did do part time for a couple of years. But for a variety of reasons, ended up not staying with it or pursuing that as a career goal. And as I said, all through that, I would continue to work in lighting in one form or another. And that's at that point, after working and teaching for a short while, that's when I decided to go ahead and focus on my lighting career.
And finally, on your background, you also had occasion for quite a long period of time, I think, if I'm not mistaken, to work with Saudi Arabia in the Middle East.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
That goes back to my younger days. I was still a young man, 19 and 20. I had an opportunity to work, quote, and then ultimately work on a project in Saudi Arabia for Aramco Oil Company, which at that time and for many years thereafter was on a major construction effort in Saudi Arabia. The result of which we see today with all the modern cities and so forth and so on. And it enabled me to collaborate with Robert Sonneman at the time when I was very young, and he was still a young man at that point, because a number of his products were specified. We ended up using them on the projects.
can you
And
spell the gentleman's last name for those who aren't familiar?
yeah, Robert Sonneman, Sonneman. And Robert at the time was uh, an up and coming lighting designer out of New York, who was at the forefront of contemporary lighting in the US, which at that time had relied strictly on European products for contemporary lighting. So he developed a whole line of products in the United States for sale and for use in the US. And it got me involved very much in contemporary, particularly architectural lighting, and it was the start of a long-term relationship with Robert Sonneman. He's considered, the father of American contemporary lighting today.
Any other thoughts that you might have in closing? But my last question is just about the company culture. What was your first impression of the company overall, zooming out when you came to it? Because you've mentioned a number of times during the interview how different Alcon Lighting is.
I was amazingly impressed by how a company could function with all these remote parts and pieces, and these different personalities in what was basically a relatively small company. I have worked for a number of lighting manufacturers, and they all are very typical with 100,000 square foot facilities, lots of people running around, meetings and offices all over. And I thought, how could this business function in such a remote fashion? And I was extremely impressed how efficient, how organized, and how developed our processes were in a very short period of time.
Any final thoughts on Alcon Lighting and being the sales director?
I think what the future holds for Alcon and a business like Alcon and myself and the other individuals there is the ability to maintain the distinction that we are, the difference that we are, and not only offer great product, but great technology, understanding of our customers' needs in a rapidly changing environment, both from the customer standpoint and the design and technical aspects of our business. Okay, it is this business has changed more in the last 5 years than the previous 25 years. And to be a part of a company that recognizes that and is prepared to step up to it and deal with it is really the most exciting part about being involved.
I can't resist one kind of mechanical trade
Sure.
question to tack
Sure.
on the bonus round, if I may. What would your, when you look at the scope of and breadth of your amazing and distinguished career, what have you found to be the decisive, crucial factor in maintaining, keeping quality lighting operating and functioning?
I think it's doing as much education as you can yourself to understand what options are available, talking to a legitimate lighting supplier, whether it's a lighting designer or a contractor or a resource like a manufacturer such as Alcon Lighting, talking to somebody who is known, has a reputation that precedes itself, and so that you're getting good advice and getting good information, and then uh, relying on them and communicating with them, and avoid making instantaneous emotional decisions. Okay. Understanding the application, understanding the challenges represented by your facility, by your building, by your environment, and describing, being able to describe your goal, your vision, your image that you see for yourself in your particular job or project, and being able to explain that and taking the time and making the time to listen and get the proper advice and adhering to that advice and using qualified people at every step of the way, whether it's in your resourcing or your work, your contracting, and so forth. Okay. And pay attention. Pay attention, yes.
Sounds like good advice. It's a very thorough answer. Bob Contos, thank you for your time and your thoughtful answers. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. And uh, this should be up and running hopefully soon on the
Okay.
Tales from Sales at Alcon Lighting.
All right. I enjoyed it thoroughly, Scott. Thank you very much. You made it very easy.
I'm very glad to hear that. Have a great one.
Thank you.